How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses with your favorite show hosts, Aristil.
Nurian.
And Volacel, or what's left of him. We're going to bring those news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. We're a little bit under strength this week, despite all three of us being here, but different proportions of us have managed to show up to do the show.
Yeah, I am mostly here, but these two are dead.
No. So, in my case, work has been kicking my ass because people need holidays, and it's not my turn for a holiday again.
What's a holiday?
I know, right? It's that one time I was able to not work for like a few days.
I don't get holiday. I've literally never taken a holiday since I started working where I'm at.
Yeah.
I did once 3 years ago. I've booked a holiday. I've booked a holiday for this year, just a very short one, and I've bought tickets and everything, so I can go and visit my family for the first time in 3 years. Because unlike Aristil, I do not merely tolerate my family; I'm actually rather fond of them.
Yes.
But yeah, I haven't seen them in a very long time, and I've booked a holiday. It's only a few days because goodness knows my workplace will burn down if I'm not there for long enough. But I do intend to take a holiday.
Yes. How long did you manage to put aside?
Like about 9 or 10 days or something like that.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
That's dangerously long. But I will take my work computer with me, and I will take my work phone with me, and I will have to regularly check in to make sure that they haven't burned the place down.
Mm-hmm. But do no more. So yeah, I've got that much of a holiday debt at this point because I've kind of worked in doing the taxis for like 10 years, nearly 11 now, and before that I didn't get to take a holiday in the building industry or building business either, so yeah. Anyway.
I have enough leave built up that I could theoretically take 3 months off.
Yeah,
all paid.
That would be nice.
Yeah, what I'm sort of hoping I'll eventually get around to is that once I can get enough staff in place and trained up and get the systems all restored that are supposed to operate on their own and so on, have everything working, then I will just go down to 4-day weeks for like a year.
Yeah, just use up some of that leave.
I'll still have, if I do that, I'll still have about 3 or 4 weeks left over by the time I'm done, at the rate of pro rata accrual. But yeah. So as for myself, I am sort of at the apex point of a head cold.
Another
like
one.
I've felt it sort of gnawing at the edges for the past 7 days or so, and at about 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, it all bit down at once. Like I felt it just overtake me from feeling perfectly normal to suddenly everything is wrong. And in the span of about 15 minutes,
yeah.
I felt all this. It was actually really uncanny, just feeling it all wash over me all at once. But yeah, so I feel like absolute garbage today.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sort of like muddling along as best I can.
Yeah. So you got the ick. I'm sleep deprived because I've worked. I did the night shift on the weekend solo, which is always rough. Spent this morning running around doing bookwork and other assorted work-related things. I got to work a full shift immediately after the show, and then a full shift tomorrow morning. Ow, landmines. So yeah, if I'm just waiting at the moment for the no-dos I just took to kick in. Hopefully that will help.
Usually, if you're down to the no-dos, it's probably not wise to keep working for health and safety reasons.
Yeah.
What's a no-do?
Not the first time we've had to burn at both ends.
No-dos are caffeine pills that they sell in this particular neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
There's other stuff in there too, but it's primarily caffeine. So
Yeah, it's
anywho,
considered, if you're down to no dose, it's considered to be you are doing something reckless at this point.
All right, food buff.
Would
oh yeah, food buffs are a thing, aren't they? All right, I guess we'll dive into my week. My week's not been a whole lot because yeah, it's been a work death march, but primarily the gaming I've been doing is I've been poking around at the new edition of Ark. Ark Survival
All right.
Ascended, as they call it. The remaster re-release, which, to its credit, is extremely pretty.
I am Frog.
You are Frog. So, Ark has not aged all that well. And it was kind of held together by duct tape and happy thoughts in the first place.
is this the game with the dodos?
Yes,
That's
it
the one
is.
where we made you a dodo and stuck you in a pin.
And you died mysteriously off screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
something came and ate you.
That's what dodos do in that game. So yeah, they've gone through, basically given every part of the game a quality of life touch up and put it over onto, whoops, that was not the button I wanted to press, onto Unreal Engine 5, which has all of the eye candy in it. That said, it does have some problems because it is Ark. It is prone to crash for seemingly no reason. Day one, it had a lot of performance hitches, though they seem to have figured out the worst of those now. And then there is the server issue. So, Wildcard, when they were building up to Ark Ascended, what was it? Survival Ascended. There you go. They originally intended to release the thing as a free update. So you can either play the old version or you can play the new version completely free. As it is, they ended up charging $60 for the new version, but that also includes all of the DLC packs getting remastered as they come down the pipe. The reason for this is because Wildcard had made some very poor financial decisions and was broke. To the point where it was either release the game now or they go bust.
It's just like my Peloton.
No. As part of the getting things going again is they signed an exclusivity contract with Nitrado server providers, who are
Garbage.
absolute hot garbage. Yes,
I've never even heard of them.
for good reason. They're not good. Their customer service is awful. Their UI is lacking. They don't even offer some of the basic utilities on their server control panels that basically everybody else does. And they tend to be a little bit unstable. Like doing things like a regular scheduled server reboot. You can set it up, it goes off at whatever time you set it. It does not, however, manually save the server state as part of that restart. Whereas everybody else's does. So you're going to lose about 15 minutes of progress usually.
And Frog.
Do I frog again? Stop it. So yeah, it's just been a hot mess. And initially, when it first came out, day one, Nitrado had such a stranglehold on the servers that you couldn't even use your own hardware to host a server. If it was either a Nitrado or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, they released their stranglehold on that after the massive backlash. So while all the official servers and all the unofficial servers, or unofficial hosted servers, are still Nitrado, people who have their own hardware can still run their own servers, because there's big super guilds out there that do play a lot of Ark and they do have their own hardware. So some of these super guilds are like a few hundred people, which when those few hundred people all say, well, if we can't use our own hardware, we're not going to buy the game, then Wildcard's going to take notice. That's a few hundred sales just gone for no reason. So But yeah, beyond that though, it's still Ark. It still is horrendously unfair, and it will take great delight in dropping gigantic man-eating pickle chickens on you, because of course it does.
Yeah, I remember when we tried Ark the first time, or like basically the only time I played Ark. We were 2 computers ago, and that computer wasn't a bad computer for the time, but it wasn't. It was starting to fall behind.
Yep.
And I'm gonna check the other way since we got a 3-way door.
Yeah.
But I could barely run it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just had shoes.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, the new version is a lot better. There was a bunch of memory leaks in it on day one, which they thankfully have fixed. They fixed that actually
This room's clear.
very, very quickly, which is nice. But if you're still having performance issues, then you can disable volumetric clouds, and that generally fixes things. In a lot of cases, that will double your
Clouds.
FPS.
Volumetric clouds.
It is always volumetric clouds.
It's usually shadows or foliage for me. Although I guess what you call it falls into that bracket.
Yeah. Ground clutter and all of that stuff. I find ground clutter in the new version, I don't think you can actually reduce, because a lot of it is now a harvestable resource. Which means you're never going to run out of fiber ever again, but it does mean that should something small fall into the grass, you're going to have a really hard time finding it.
There's the horde.
I found it.
Gravy.
This also includes your own corpse, because one of the features that the original game added later on was a column of light over your corpse when you died.
Oh.
The new version does not have that anymore. It puts a visual waypoint on your screen, which disappears when you get close to it, in the approximate location where you physically died, not where your corpse ended up.
Oh.
That does not seem helpful.
It is not. So sometimes you can go back to where you died, still manage to clear everything out, and be in a position to reclaim your corpse, and just not find your stuff. Thankfully, there are mods, and they're not using Steam Workshop, they're using their own built-in mod browser, but, you know, that's neither here or there at this point, really. So yeah, for this value they're offering for $60, if you're missing a couple of Ark expansions, because there's like 12 of them now. I didn't need to touch that, but I did anyway, and I got punished for it.
You got boomed.
Yeah, they're not asking the full AAA price, which was actually kind of a nice surprise. So yeah, it's good. It's not a bad deal if you play a lot of Ark. If you don't play a lot of Ark, or you've already got the expansions and you only kind of dabble in it, I wouldn't bother with it.
So Coco's going to be happy, and that's about it.
Yes. Or you go back to the old HoloLive stuff and was it the Subarusaurus?
Yeah.
Coco's probably too busy being the streamer who wasn't a total failure at participating in the Yakuza franchise.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Will we?
I'm not surprised to see...
I don't care about that chest.
No, we don't. I'm not surprised to see her get picked up by Yakuza.
Oh no, there's another angle to this story we'll get into later.
Oh joy! It's nice actually to see some of the VTubers sprawling out to things that are not just waifu games.
Well, waifu games are sort of their specialty.
They are.
They're kind of designed for it.
They are waifus in waifu games. I mean, yeah, makes perfect sense. I'm going to leave my week at that, because we do need to keep this show moving fairly quickly. And I don't have a whole lot else to talk about unless you want to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen, which is just, you know.
Haven't seen the latest episode, don't spoil it for me.
I'm going back through the old stuff.
Okay.
So I'm doing the what do they call it? The exchange, school exchange at the moment, which I
Oh,
think
the
is the
Boogie
back
Woogie.
half of season 1.
Yeah, Boogie Woogie time.
I'm about to come up on Boogie Woogie time.
Man, this guy dies so much faster with a lot of people here.
Yeah, he does.
You've seen a lot of them lately, have you?
Yeah, kept having a lot of false starts. One guy called me in the middle of this boss, and that ruined that run.
Bleh. Alright, so I'm going to leave my week at that. Because I haven't even actually watched anything other than Jujutsu Kaisen at the moment. It's been that
You
sort
should
of
watch
week.
Hulk.
I need to watch Hulk, but I also don't need to watch Hulk because
I don't want to be the only one who's getting depressed at what's supposed to be a comedic, goofy show.
it started out so happy and fun and dumb, and then it didn't stay there.
Turns out the world sucks a lot more than they presented.
Yeah. Like, I'm a fair way behind at the moment, but like when you have Hulk, like, he's a massively powerful character, but everyone he knows and loves has turned into a winged flying douchebag who is basically omnicidal at this point.
See, the thing is that we're basically the season that we're currently on, the majority of it is a big long flashback about how everything got to be the absolute crapsack world that it is now.
So why everyone is now a feathered shithead.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the demons are basically the good guys at this point.
Well, I don't know. Like, it seems like that's pretty much like what is implied throughout. But the humans are all very much convinced that the demons are bad and that they always have been, and nobody really seems to know where that story originates from. Because as viewers, we are only ever showed the demons just being normal people.
Yeah.
But somebody must have started that story and had something to substantiate it originally. But
Or at the very least, some sort of goal in mind.
We never actually see exactly how that got started.
So, I will need to catch up. There is actually a lot of good anime out at the moment to watch. And yeah, sometimes it means going back and watching stuff I've already seen, like Jujutsu Kaisen. I need to catch back up on Goblin Slayer, though I might wait for that run to finish before I go back and finish that one. I see it going horrible, depressing places.
Well, it's not a really a very nice world.
No,
Best times.
it is not.
Mostly it's been sort of semi upbeat so far. Like they completed one sort of mini arc, and they're on the next sort of mini arc, which is basically the elven girl's sister is getting married, and so she's dragging everybody off to her home village to attend the wedding.
That sounds like happy, goofy fun times until it's suddenly not.
And then there's goblins everywhere.
Because of course there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still reeling over that review you linked a couple of weeks ago. Someone getting all salty because it's an anime about a guy and all he does is slay goblins.
So I don't know what you were hoping for. It's called Goblin Slayer.
It's right there on the tin. What were you expecting?
Like buying a box of oranges and being upset you didn't get apples.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Vol, what you been do?
Dying.
Yay!
But yeah. What did I do? I did play a little bit of video games. I clocked a little bit more time in Fate Samurai Remnant. I think I'm probably up to the last chapter of my first playthrough. I gather there's about 4 different endings that you can get, or 3 endings, one of which can be seen from multiple perspectives. I think there's like 2 different angles that you can observe it from, depending on the choices that are made toward the end. But And the issues with the game continue to be a product of the sort of bizarre heritage that it has. Like, and it makes some really weird decisions at times as well in regard to that. Like, it's a Dynasty Warriors game, but it feels sometimes like it wants to be Dark Souls. Because, like, they dump you... I did one of the harder fights that I've had to do in the game so far this week. And they just sort of like... They drop you in a fight against Cuchulainn and Li Shuwen and Tamamo Aria simultaneously. Like, and you've never had to fight more than one servant at a time before, and they drop you in this fight with 3 now. Tamamo Aria never fights directly. She's a support servant. But Tamamo Aria is the reason why Aristeal saw me getting absolutely bodied by Rogue Archer, by Arjuna, because any fight where Tamamo Aria is involved on the enemy side, basically the fight will adopt the form of, if you get touched once and you're not on full health, you need to heal immediately, because the next time you get touched, you'll die. Because she amps the damage that's incoming so much. And in this case, they just dump you in it against Li Shuwen and Cuchulainn, who thankfully are both melee fighters. But so you can stay out of their way to some extent, although Cuchulainn is incredibly fast, because in addition to everything else, I think Tamamo Aria amps speed as well. But it's kind of brutal because you don't play in that fight. They suddenly just change your control perspective to controlling Rogue Saber, who you have used exactly once, I think. Once or twice else in the game. So you've got, and of course you don't have any items to heal with. You've got like the fixed ones that they give you if you borrow a servant as part of the story event. So you get like a few healing items and a few items to give you points to use special abilities. But that's it. You don't have whatever resources you've built up to deal with these boss fights. Which is really rough because you're unfamiliar with the controls and attacks you need to use. You've got don't have very many items to fall back on, and you are being pitted against one of the toughest opponents in the game. Well, you're pitted against 3 individuals at the same time, making it one of the hardest fights in the game. So I got teabagged repeatedly, and the only way I could figure out how to get through it was to be basically incredibly cheesy and spam my cheapest special ability over and over and over again because of the way the cinematography forces enemies into the same spot when you use it, so that you can always keep Li Shuwen and Cuchulainn in front of you, because if one of them should come around behind you, you're basically knackered. So, yeah, I was not really that impressed by the way it all came together, because it felt like you had to play in a kind of weirdly dishonest fashion in order to reasonably get through it. Because if you got caught out of position even once, you would immediately have to heal. And of course, you can only do that a couple of times. So that's what I mean when I say it took on the sort of the Dark Souls damage aesthetic. Where, the boss hits you, so you have to heal, and you've got this many Estus flasks or whatever.
Yeah, it becomes a calculation of how many hits per... there's a horde on this floor. How many hits per health bar can I take, rather than any amount of variable damage?
Yeah, so it was a rather frustrating sort of fight. I've done a number of other fights that were interesting, and they played out a bit better. Like there are some fights where you eventually converge on proper responsive behaviors to telegraphs. Like, they are going to use this attack, and I have concluded through experimentation that this is the correct way to act in response to that, such that you don't get teabagged. But in this fight, you really can't fall back on any of your knowledge of how to play, because you're being dumped at the helm of a servant you're unfamiliar with, who also doesn't appear to have any projectile attacks at all. So
yeah, he's a monk.
So Rogue Saber is not a great servant to control in my experience. Like all of all of his abilities are powerful and flashy, but leave you comically open. So yeah. But at any rate, I'm sort of closing in on the end of that, and basically, Iori is Shiro Emiya if Shiro Emiya actually had the fighting chops to back up his altruism. Like, Iori's not like... Iori does have a tendency to try and help people and rescue people who are in danger simply because they're in danger and he thinks it's his job to rescue them. But unlike Shiro Emiya, he's under no delusion about the strength required to do it. And so he's acquired those abilities. So yeah, you do end up running headlong into trouble, but in this case, his servant is sort of like of a similar mindset. It doesn't have hero syndrome the way Shiro Emiya does, or even to the same extent that Iori does. But Saber is much more cooperative with this type of thing because basically it involves a scrap, and Saber likes that. But yeah, it's sort of moving along. It's sort of interesting how they decided to implement the Dynasty Warriors. Like, what keeps Dynasty Warriors interesting really is there's so many different characters, but of course there are limits to how many characters you can have in a setting like this. So basically they made Iori 5 different characters. I've unlocked all the different combat styles now, and they all have their use, although I'm not necessarily sure what those uses are sometimes. Like, Earth Stance is good when you are like fighting like one opponent and you are pretty seriously outmatched and you don't know how to respond to incoming attacks, because it will give you quite a bit more ability to take hits while you're working out what to do. Water Stance doesn't seem all that useful because it leaves you very open, and it mainly seems to be good for mowing down large numbers of mooks. But the thing is that most of the other fighting styles aren't really bad at mowing down mooks. Like, Earth Stance is really bad for mowing down mooks. Like, it's very specifically for fighting single elite enemies. But all of the other styles have at least something that you can use to deal with mooks. So Water Stance seems like most of the time, while it does a lot of damage, it's just too risky to use. Wind Stance is sort of introduced as being used to fight, primarily to fight servants and to fight monsters rather than to fight regular, like, human enemies. But it seems to sort of like, well, it does that well, and it's got more projectile potential than most of the other fighting styles. It's more of a fallback option in fights against supernatural enemies rather than an optimal option, because if you're playing well, you can do other things. But I still end up falling back to it quite a bit, because in supernatural fights it's sort of a very effective lowest common denominator as far as combat techniques go. But oops, I've just alt-tabbed out of the game. Where's my alt-tab locking button? There we go. The Fire Stance and the Void Stance sort of go together in a sense. Fire Stance is a very slow and powerful stance, but the lower your health gets, the shorter the animation lock is after abilities. And if you're in critical health, basically you can dish out these unbelievably powerful attacks really, really fast. By contrast, Void Stance is sort of the opposite. As long as you are remaining untouchable, you're basically this ridiculous storm of witheringly powerful damage. And you move really fast. You've got the ability to sort of like leave damage in places that will go off after you've moved on, sort of thing. Like, there's lots of little tricks to it. The main issues with Void Stance is you can if you take a hit and you don't realize it immediately, you can end up getting stuck in animation lock at a really bad time and make the situation even worse, because your amount of animation lock ramps up really fast as you start to take damage. Like, you pretty much have to be sitting on 100% health, or at least like above 90%, in order for it to be a functional combat style. And when you are above 90% health, you're incredibly effective at combat. Like, you just sweep sweep people away like week before the scythe, but you drop below 90% and things get worse real fast.
Doesn't leave you a whole lot of room for error.
But that's the point, right? It's supposed to be a performance style where you are going to get incredibly high payoffs provided you do remain untouchable. But yeah, I've actually gotten better at playing the game due to insistently attempting to use Void Stance, because it's like, well, I want to use this combat style because it's very effective, but I have to not get hit. So I have to be good. I don't have a choice. The big weakness of it is that it's like a really fast Iaijutsu style, but the animation style is such that Iori disappears a lot while he's using the strikes, like to sort of evoke speed. The problem is that because he keeps disappearing, it's really hard to work out where your hitbox is sometimes. It's like, am I going to get hit because I can see my strikes going off, but I can't see my character? Because like it's supposed to be like he's moving so fast that you're seeing the strike go out in a location, but you can't see your character on screen because he's moving too fast. It's like, well, I can see something pass through the space. Is going to pass through the space where I think I was a second ago, but I don't know if I'm still there or not. So yeah. It's got some tricks to it. And it also eventually gains the ability to be effective against shell gauges, which means that I don't constantly get stuck using Wind Stance only to deal with shell gauges, because that's incredibly dull, basically, to get stuck fighting a large shell gauge using Wind Stance, because basically you're going to just flick a fireball at the enemy every time they stop moving. And just carry that on is the safest way to go, because Wind Stance is just not great for close-in fighting for an extended period. It's very much more for tactically bombing groups of supernatural enemies. But it's also, like I said, the lowest common denominator for those supernatural fights. So if there's a shell gauge in the offing, you usually get stuck in Wind Stance. But if you're using Void Stance correctly and you can avoid getting touched, that's really, really effective to just melt shell gauges. The problem is that the enemies that are supernatural are far more effective at dealing you damage without you seeing it coming, because they have more projectiles, they have more sort of point-blank AoEs and that sort of thing, because they're like supernatural monsters and stuff.
Yeah. Vol, you can suck your best boss. Bottom left bomb.
Here we go. If you yeah, if you're fighting a bunch of like conventional samurai enemies or whatever, you can absolutely destroy them with Void Stance, because they can just hit things with their sword basically, and your sword is better than their sword. That's the long and short of it. So yeah, it's comically effective against that, but they do a good job of showing how Musashi uses Void Stance as her primary combat ability as well, but you can sort of see the shared heritage, but the two of them use it in different ways, since Musashi's now in a powerful berserker spirit origin and Iori's a normal human being, so they use the same sorts of techniques but they use them in different ways.
Oh, there we go. Another level.
Yay.
Yay, that's one level less of Monk I need to play.
One artifact less for me to gather.
Ugh.
I actually got a single Time Worn artifact pre-floor 50 during my fault starts this week. A single one.
Oh, okay.
So they do exist.
The odds are just not very high. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how the game closes out, and then we'll see about how much effort am I going to go to see the other endings. I have missed a bunch of side stories and things, Like, I've defeated Rogue Berserker, Samson.
It did
They
turn
do
out to be
eventually
Samson.
reveal. Yeah, they do eventually reveal that he's that he is Samson, and the reason why he's supporting Takao Dayu is because he falls for the first pretty face that he sees, basically. But yeah, I've already taken him out. Like, he's gone from the plot now. He was decisively defeated in the story. And I basically didn't do any side stories for him, and I know that they exist, so I clearly botched something up somewhere.
Yeah.
I think that you're supposed to do a digression really early on in the game, and that unlocks those, and I missed it because I advanced the plot too quickly, and it closed off.
Has the game shown any indication that the plot diverges to a point like you've obviously taken him out of the story? Could it be possible to actually keep him going? And,
I think that this is the right time for him to die, as far as the story is concerned. But there are definitely branch paths for side stories concerning what he's doing during the course of the war that I missed.
Yep.
Because the stories take different forms. Like, sometimes it's Iori will go and talk to one of the other characters, and they will tell a story about something from their past, or sometimes it will just cut to controlling this character. What are they doing right now during this particular point in the plot? Or you will go and then you'll meet somebody somewhere, and then you'll have a mini adventure together or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they take different. Like, one of them is just going on a shopping trip with Musashi.
Because why not?
In this case, you strike a deal with one of the masters early on to go and do something for them in exchange for them overlooking you trespassing in their territory, and to go and do the first of Samson's digressions requires you to then immediately trespass in their territory again without repaying your debt. And the game strongly hints that you shouldn't do that, but then if you don't, you simply miss the digression.
Right. So presumably they sent Samson to rough you up a bit if you do it again.
Probably. That's probably how it goes. And I've got to say that based on my later fights against Samson, if I had fought him that early in the game, I probably would have spent a great deal of time getting frustrated, because he hits like a truck, and he's got this suplex move that I always get caught by because I haven't worked out how to tell when he's going to do it. But even up to my very last fight with him, he would still just sometimes rush in, grab me, and suplex me.
Okay.
Like, well, that was the thing that happened.
No one can resist the power of the suplex.
I don't think he suplexed anybody in the Book of Judges.
He should have.
Maybe he did.
There's a few,
quite
a lot of people in that book who do need a good suplexing.
There are quite a few. Maybe he did it while he was holding the jawbone.
Maybe.
There were a lot of Philistines in there. One of them could have got the suplex.
Yeah, like he's sort of like one of the most orthodox conceivable sort of fate-setting berserkers. Like, he's a berserker. He's famously powerful. He's got a very clear story regarding the origin of his power and a very clear weakness to exploit.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sort of like an archetypal berserker servant for a fate story, and
Which
they basically
which are the weaknesses they go with? Well, both. Well, they both are tied to the same thing because.
Basically this is spoilers, but it's like spoilers that are obvious because, like,
it's Samson.
Poetry demands that it happen like this. The woman who he fell for basically comes up behind him while he's distracted in combat and cuts his hair.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if they'd go full deep lore on that and go. They found another way to make him break the Nazarite vow, like walking in a graveyard or something.
No, I think that they don't want to go into too deep lore about that because nobody in the Japanese audience knows about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas if you've heard any part of the story of Samson, then you would have heard about the hair weakness.
Yeah, and like I said, it's very archetypal. It's sort of like an Achilles heel thing.
Yeah.
That it's like this is a famous mythological weakness type of thing. Like you've got this one point where you can hamstring their strength by doing this very particular thing,
Do
and
this thing
that's sort of
superpower.
that's sort of like the thing that people like about the structure of Fate Stay Night. Like people don't like it when we just stepped on a luring trap and both of us are low on health.
I'm going.
The people like when it's set up like that. They don't so much like it when a servant gets introduced who's just like comically powerful.
Yeah, it's like they are powerful, but it's all about finding and exploiting the weakness.
I'll get you with the Karen. It should activate pretty quick here.
Yeah, should be.
Oh, you
there's-
must
there's-
get hit by that boulder.
Yeah, I got hit by the laser eyes.
Alright,
But
do the thing.
yeah, the
Why,
like
Fern?
Because there's treasure and I
There's-
can't help myself.
But you're already maxed on Aether Pool.
Doesn't matter.
there's like, for instance, in Prisma Ilia, there's this situation where one of the characters is using the power of Thor's son, and in the legend, Thor's son is forced to back up a certain number of steps in combat and then dies while he's poisoned. And the way that they try and force this into existence is that Ilia invokes Gorgon's power so that she can use a snake's poison, and then they poison the opponent and then basically force them back a number of steps, and that's the reenacting of the legend, which causes their power to fail. So, like, that's the sort of thing that people like. People don't like necessarily when it just comes down to a beam struggle.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sort of a waste of potential to go that route.
We've
So,
seen beam
yeah,
struggle
that-
before, and it's nothing new.
Yeah.
You save that for maybe the very end of a fight, and don't pull it out ever. Aside from that,
I think you save the beam struggle not so much for a test of might, but more of a conflict of ideals.
no, I think it works pretty good. Of the villain and the hero are literally on their last leg, and we just need to see who has more juice left at this point.
Yeah.
But
But they don't usually do that. What I'm sort of thinking and I've got in mind here is sort of things that are just sort of like anticlimactic, like Excalibur versus Bellerophon.
oh yeah,
Like that's just King Arthur brought a bigger gun, and that's the only reason that they won.
King Arthur bought the biggest
And-
gun.
And you can sort of get away with that in that particular scenario because it's sort of an unveiling of how much power there is dormant in Artoria, and that basically hamstrings her from then on in the story because she
Yeah,
can't be
those-
supplied enough energy
Hmm.
to use it again.
yeah. That one has a bit of narrative weight because she drains all her juice for the next several days.
But it does remove Ryder from the plot in an incredibly banal fashion.
It does.
Ryder, in every or most tellings of the Fate Stay Night story, I feel Ryder gets done dirty.
She's sort of like she displaces Saber entirely in Heaven's Feel as the focused servant.
Yeah.
Okay, so she does get at least one route where she gets her time in the spotlight.
Like she basically becomes Shiro's servant in Heaven's Feel
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Sakura's not up to it. She's in a messy state.
She has
So-
a really, really good fight in the movie.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like she's got the shittest master and she tends to be the first one to die.
Well, she has the wormiest master as the real master, but you don't know that until Heaven's Feel.
Yeah. And then ultimately
But,
gets upstaged and replaced by Gilgamesh.
But yeah, I'm still not sure who some of the characters are. Like, I've got a rough idea that Rogue Saber is probably one of the four Heavenly Kings of Raiko's immediate subordinates, and I'm still inclined to think that the enemy rider is actually Raiko. using a voice changer. uh,
No, she
I-
has like a gajillion different ways she could be summoned, right?
yeah, because she's sort of like she was sort of like a polymath of combat in Fate lore. She was good at everything, but and also had some divine heritage and some Oni heritage, so basically can appear in any kind of form.
Gives her a lot of points for qualifying for containers.
But I'm not sure who the enemy assassin is. Like, it very obviously has very strong ties to Orochi or something in that line, but I'm not quite sure exactly who. Maybe the first one at the head of Chiome's clan or something like that,
And
who incurred the curse the first time.
at least they didn't go the usual route and just stick a Hassan in there.
Well, it's supposed to be a Hassan.
It's usually
it-
supposed to be a Hassan, yeah.
Well, that's the rule that's established to be broken.
It's well, no. The thing is that it's sort of like a default rule. It's sort of like there are rules for summoning, right? If you've got a catalyst, the catalyst will influence who you get. If you don't have a catalyst, you'll get someone who is either complementary to your personality or a similar personality,
Mhm.
and that type of thing. In the case of Assassin, the class container Assassin acts as the catalyst in the absence of a catalyst. So that rule is actually the rule breaker. This is basically because they named the container Assassin, and the word Assassin has such strong historical ties, it is able to function specifically as a catalyst in the absence of a stronger catalyst.
And
But
it's a catalyst for
lots of-
Hassan.
But that's only in a classic Grail War.
Mm.
If it's not a classic Grail War, there can be other things can have a stronger influence. Like the geography can sometimes win out. It's sort of like it influences the odds, right? Like if you're going to roll up a random assassin, Hassans will have a heavy weighting, and the more that your society knows about Hassans, like if the word assassin has that cultural connotation, like if you were to summon an assassin with no catalyst in the Middle East, you're always going to get a Hassan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it influences the banner gacha rates on
Well, the fact that there's also 100, if it's purely random, it's like good odds you're still going to get a Hassan.
If you do it in Japan, you're likely still to get a ninja instead because the location will invoke that.
Yeah.
And
How many
that type
wyverns
of
are in
thing.
France?
They haven't put any wyverns in Fate Samurai Remnant. I think they probably thought it might be a bit too on the nose. But yeah, so there's another one of the Tomamo 9 is the rogue rider. She doesn't ever actually fight though. Rogue caster is Cersei, who is an interesting choice, and she's sort of bewildered how she actually ended up in sort of like late medieval Japan, sort of like early modern Japan.
Okay.
She's got no ties to the place whatsoever. There's not really any reason for her to be there. None of the other heroes come from Greek mythology. She's just sort of there by herself and sort of confused about how come she showed up. So she just sort of bunkers down in her territory until you sort of drag her out and involve her.
Is her master a pervert who wants to be called her naughty little piggy?
No, she's rogue servant.
Right. She doesn't have a
She-
master then.
She does try and convince people to become her piggies.
Of course she does.
You do spend a certain amount of the time of the game after meeting her transformed into a pig and running around as a pig
It is kind of her thing.
while Saber tries to keep you alive. But basically, she's just sort of a lonely person because from her point of view, everybody just abandons her.
Mm.
So she doesn't see anything wrong with the fact that she's trying to turn them into pigs to keep them with her. But yeah, a lot of the characters never seem to have done any story in my playthrough so far. I'm wondering if maybe you just don't get the opportunity much until New Game Plus.
Possibly.
Like
There's a
Look,
lot of
I-
visual novels and games like that a lot of those routes just don't open till New Game Plus. Like Digimon
Yeah,
Survive's a
like,
good example of that.
I had almost no interaction whatsoever with Li Shuin and then he gets controlled by the enemy, and he basically never says anything ever again, sort of thing. Like he's essentially a non-character, but I'm pretty sure he's got side stories in there. It's just I've never seen one.
Okay.
Other than ones where you show up and he shows up and you brawl it out. So
He's just kind of there otherwise.
yeah, and Kukulin is similar. Like you show up and he shows up and you have a big scrap. He's the first one to sort of like join up with you as an assistant to help you out when you're near enough to his territory for him to do so. But then he eventually just basically sort of fades from the plot as well. So yeah, the enemy Lancer has also disappeared from the plot, more or less. Like he's still around. Like you see her master lurking occasionally in some cutscene or other.
You can suck your bitch again, ball.
Right, I see. But it's like he's always just sort of prowling around the edges, growling about things, and doesn't really do very much. And I have the feeling that maybe he would be more central to the plot if I'd gone down a different route instead, because like the master of Rider, Yui Shosetsu, he basically disappears from the plot while you are dealing with Lancer and Lancer's master, and then he appears again later after you make like a clearly a fork in the road sort of decision. So I can't help but think that maybe it's just that if I had chosen the other route, then he would be more at the center of the story, something like that. Because Yui could have quite easily just disappeared from the plot, but instead, Lance has disappeared from the plot. So yeah, I think that where the focus ends up depends on what choices you make. Also, like Dorothea Koyet, the Magus, who's the master of Assassin, they very clearly give you the opportunity to leave her twisting in the wind. And you can choose to go after her or not. So and I did in this case, because basically her assassin has gone on a rampage and she can't stop him. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's all very well me trying to stop the grand plot, but if there's nothing left of Edo by the time I'm finished, it really wasn't worth the effort. So I decided to go after Assassin at that point in the story. But you have the opportunity to basically leave her to fruitlessly attempt to stop her servant and probably get killed in the process. And I didn't opt that way, but that option was open. So yeah, I don't know what would be happening if I made other choices. So it does sort of encourage doing additional playthroughs. Also, I still at this stage have no idea whatsoever who the enemy caster is. Like, you see him sort of like talking in a shadowy room to another shadowy person a few times during the game, and just sort of being generally smug and dismissive of other people's efforts, etc. But that's all.
Okay.
Like, I literally know nothing else about him other than he's sort of around and thinks he's better than everybody else.
He hasn't even fought or anything like that?
I've never seen him fight, I don't think.
Yeah, usually watching him fight can give you a big clue as to who they actually are.
No, he's just sort of around. He looks like he's probably some type of like Eastern spellcaster, perhaps. Like maybe an Onmyoji of some kind or something like that.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of those.
But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure who he is or what his game is. And I don't even know if I'm on a story path where I'll actually find out. So So yeah, I'm interested to see where the story goes, and then to try again and see how things go the next time round. It doesn't seem like you really need to grind very much, but a lot of the things that you can unlock and the upgrades that you can get in there would require a lot of grinding. So it's clearly designed to be done over a couple of playthroughs, not all at once.
Yeah.
Gosh darn.
Anyway, I'll leave it there because we don't have as much time.
We
this
don't
week.
have a whole lot of time this week. Ari, what you been doing?
All right. So, my week, as mentioned last week, I've been cajoled into taking my my sister into work, and I basically get no say in the matter. So, what you call it? I spent a good chunk of the week teaching her the ropes and watching her be flabbergasted that this is a job where you don't have breaks and you have to just keep going.
Stuff's going to get done.
Yeah, this is a family business with minimal employees. Like, there are no breaks, there are no holidays, there is no lunch. There is, if the phone ain't ringing, you can take a gamble.
It's hard enough for me to get people to work when they do have all those things.
Yes.
So, showed her the basic stuff and have effectively turned her into a glorified office monkey. I'm having her do things, make blank quotes, pre-fill out the invoice after I send the order acknowledgement by copy and paste and everything, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust her with data.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just basic office monkey stuff. And go to the post office.
The amount of people I've actually seen who mess up go to the post office. Because you don't you specify go to the post office. You tend not to specify then come straight back.
Yeah, I send her at lunchtime and say you can go to the post office and then go get lunch, and you need to be back here within an hour.
Yeah.
And she got close, and I almost got onto her. I was like, kind of a little close there. And she looked at me like she didn't actually expect me to hold her to what I told her I wanted her to do.
She has had a job before.
Hasn't she?
Yeah. And here's what she thought. She thought she would be working for the opossum. She can strong arm the opossum because the opossum has a spine made out of wet spaghetti. I'm not the opossum. And when I tell you to do something, you need to do it. But the opossum's job at work is to sit in there and watch TikTok and try not to mess any jobs up that he actually gets involved in.
And put DLC on the company image.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did that again this year, by the way. So that's now 2 years I've found PSN charges on the company credit card. So yeah. But no, she's working. So that means she's working for me. I'm the one that actually runs the company. So.
And you also run the payroll.
Yes, and I am keeping track of every second she's there. So yeah, that's been the week at work. On top of that, we've got a whole lot of other nasty issues going on at work that I need to deal with, and they're being a pain in the butt. We have. It's not worth going into the full details of, but basically, our main supplier has lost their ability to produce the custom stators they use for the motors, and a customer that we told would have their product delivered in 4 to 6 weeks now is looking at a delivery date of January, and I've had to just sit there and bust the supplier's chops over this.
Yeah. Was it a planned thing, or did the?
No, it was the company suddenly went out of business and didn't indicate to anybody that's what was going to happen.
Oh, joy.
So there's nobody really to blame in this scenario, unfortunately. So I can't placate the customer by giving them a head.
Hmm?
So that's just been an ongoing pain in my butt of every single day an email asking for an update because people are flipping out.
Yeah, they do.
And so yeah, that's we don't have enough kills yet.
Don't. Find more stuff.
Yeah. So other than that, my video game time this week, a little bit of getting back into Yakuza. I've had the Yakuza remastered games on my bought during a sale as a bundle on Steam for a while now. But I hadn't got around to playing them, and I had stopped my playthrough of Yakuza 3 about tenth of the way through last time because the orphanage is just so boring.
Yeah.
And it is not a very interesting plot. And so I started up Yakuza 3 again, but realized real quick, wait a minute. I remember what happened in Yakuza 1 pretty good. The story beats in that game are pretty iconic. But I do not remember a dang thing about Yakuza 2, despite people always talking about how it's one of the better ones. So I found some recap videos on YouTube that were about an hour long. And was watched and decided to go through those first before I continued that playthrough. And to facilitate this, I'm just
check
gonna
it
here real quick. Yeah, no, don't care.
No.
And so to facilitate the opportunity to watch these and still make some progress, I attempted to run Palace of the Dead while listening to them right after I got home from work for a few days, and had so many false starts that ended at floor like 60 or something because my telephone would ring after hours, which it's not supposed to.
For what?
Yeah, and I can't very well ignore it because that's a customer, that's money. So I don't like presenting that I'm available after work hours, but it's just kind of how the cookie crumbles there. Not a whole lot I can do about it. So yeah. That was that. And then after those fell through, I spent my free time, some of my free time, in Eureka. First, I spent some time in Pagos, because Pagos is the worst zone, and I wanted to make some progress in it and try and farm either the Blitz Ring or Cassie's Earrings. And I was determined to try and get at least one of these before the week was over. Or not the week was over, but just before I move on to a different zone. So this could have, I expected this to take a while. Well, it didn't take a while. I got the Blitz Ring from Crab. That's a 10 million gil item. Okay, cool. That's off the to-do list. Now any future Blitz Rings that drop are just cash money. So, cool. One problem.
Yeah.
I was going to just continue with Pagos because it has the upgrade items. But you can't actually equip the Blitz Ring if you're in Pagos.
Nope.
Because the Blitz Ring used to be an item called the Speed Belt. And when it was the Speed Belt, the item was not unique. However, when they changed it into a ring, it mandated that it get the unique tag so that people couldn't wear two of them. And this means if it's in your armory chest, inventory, or equipped to your character, you cannot acquire another one.
You got to stick it into a retainer or into your Chocobo saddlebag or something like that.
Yep. So until I finish Pagos, the Blitz Ring gets to live in the saddlebag.
Yay!
It is a 10 million gil paperweight.
Yeah. I get why they had to put the unique tab on there, but it kind of
Why
does
did it have
mess
to be a
up.
ring?
Yeah, you could have made it a bracelet.
Or a necklace.
You could have made it... Yeah. I mean, Cassie's already got the earrings covered, but
Yeah,
there are so many other things you could do, and they didn't. They made it a ring. And there were so many rage threads about this on the internet, and I'm glad I checked to remind myself. Because initially I was thinking, oh, I gotta check if it's unique. Okay, it says unique. I assume that means I can only equip one, and it's not some dumb error when they changed it. But just in case, I'll double check because this expansion's been a little weird, and that's when they changed it. So I go dig around, make sure there's no weird quirks to this because it's a Eureka item on top of everything else. And just saw rage thread after rage thread of people losing out on second Blitz Rings because they had it equipped. So that was fun.
That's understandable. People, like, if you lost a 10,000 gil sale item just because of what you had equipped.
Yeah, okay, we're good.
Let's just go. Yeah, I'd be salty too.
Yeah. So, this made me pivot my strategy a little bit, because before I can finish all my weapons in Pagos, I need to clear out Animos. And I ran out of weapons to start marching through Pagos because I had not done very much Animos at all. So I only had like 3 or 4 weapons up to Pagos step. So I had to do some Animos. So I poked my head in there a few days and just would kill random stuff, and just do a couple NMs. Nothing super big. And then, I'll say, oh, hang on, find the crossbow button. I'll go ahead and pop it. Just get it up for the boss. All right, and yeah, but then Abo came on. Was MIA all week because he actually had a heavy work week this week, and was working pretty much every day, full hours, so almost a full-time week. Plus, I think it was a full-time week plus a little bit this week for him. So he was tired every day this week and just went straight to bed. And so I had a bunch of days myself, but when he got back on Thursday, we went into Animos and we got a freshie. There were only like 5 people in the zone.
Nice.
And this is a quirk of Eureka. And when it comes to the individual zones and their cultures being very, very different. So I'll describe Pagos last because I hate it the most. But Animos is easy. I will happily take the wheel and drive an Animos with a tracker and everything and call in pull times. Animos is full of newbies who don't really know what they're doing, so nobody's going to fight you. Nobody's going to be running off spawn and weird crap because they don't even know how to do that. Ball, you can suck a bitch. And blocking spawns. Nothing in Animos really blocks spawns. There's a few things that can block Pazuzu, but that's about it.
Well, Pazuzu is going to be more at the whim of the weather than anything else, usually.
Yeah. So, and usually everybody's at Zuzu when he pops because he's the only target of any value there to people because he saves you so many crystals if you can get him. I will kill the Grey Bomb after my overheat is done. Hang on, I just gotta murder this thing. There we go. And yeah, it's super easy to run, and people are very, very nice in Animos, especially if you're the one running stuff, because they don't know what they're doing and they're appreciative for the help. Usually, it's a good experience for the most part. I don't have too many problems with Animos, other than there being too many weather conditions for too many mobs, and some of the spawn, the mobs you need to kill to spawn crap is a bit, it's a bit nuts.
It's a bit janky, yeah.
You need to kill way too many things for some enemies, it seems like. But yeah, next is Pyros. Pyros, you have the introduction of what would eventually become the holster in Baja, and the actions and the passive effects, the essence ofs and your actions. So you're way more free in what you pick for your class. If you're leading the train in Animos or Pagos, you absolutely should play a tank so that you can help do prep better. So if you take the wheel, I would strongly advise playing a tank in those 2 zones. But after that, it doesn't really matter because Essence of the Plate Bearer exists.
Yeah.
So anybody can be the one pulling to prep crap. So Pyros in general has a very good layout relative to the previous 2 zones. It's very straightforward. Even if you do have to get through the wall of crabs.
Wall of crabs.
Yeah, there's a wall of like level 40 crabs, or yeah, something like that, just sitting in a choke point that you either have to out level so they don't aggro anymore, or I'm another Manticore. I'll grab the Rage Bomb. To the exit. These 2 over. But it's very easy to navigate. Only one mob of any value for selling crap really spawns. Aside, the other 2 have no spawn conditions, and you can just go spawn them when they're up. So when their timer's up, just go to their area. You don't have to wait for weather or time or anything. One of them, the one that does have a condition though, is really obnoxious. He spawns smack in the middle of the map, and the stuff you need to kill to spawn him he's like the only NM like this. The stuff you need to kill is absolutely nowhere near him. It's way on the far west side of the map.
Oh, joy.
So aside from him, and of course he's the highest level mob in the zone, so he's 5 levels above the level cap. Or rather, the mobs you need to kill for him are 5 levels above the level cap. But aside from him, it's a really straightforward zone to go through and to lead. Usually there's somebody else leading the Pyros when you get in there because there are high value NMs, the two that drop Magicite items without conditions, plus the high value one that has the weather condition. But so people can get ants in their pants and act a little dumb, but for the most part, Pyros ain't that bad. Hydatos has the Valdesian Arsenal people pooping it up, but they're not there aside from Raid Night, and if it's not Raid Night, it's generally a pretty chill place because it's literally just a big flat circle. And there are no weather conditions in Hydatos, and only 1 or 2 mobs have a time of day condition. It has to be nighttime. Oh dear, there's a Mimic. Hang on, gotta pivot to the Mimic. Pivot to the Mimic. So yeah, that's Hydatos. It's I don't mind running Hydatos out.
That was just rude.
I'm Manticoring. So yeah, don't mind running Hydatos. Pagos, however, is a gosh darn nightmare. You will not catch me dead leading the Pagos. Unless there is just literally nobody else. I will take random people popping crap over leading the Pagos. Because Pagos has 2 mobs that both have weather conditions that drop items of 10 and 20 million respectively, and one of them drops a pet that also drops for 20 million.
Ow.
And these things, and the mob you need to kill for the Pazuzu Feather equivalent only spawns at nighttime as well. And these things just, they all strong once I get out of Manticore form. These things just distort every little bit of the experience trying to get people coordinated in there, because everybody will want to stop and pop Cassie or Crab when they're up. And when Luigi's up, or Lohi, whatever his actual name is, everybody's going to want to stop and do him. So you can try and get some kind of semblance of order, but because all the high value crap has a weather condition or a time condition, and popping Cassie is a particular pain in the butt. She's the highest level mob in the zone that drops the 20 million gil stuff. You have to kill a gorillion giant Malbros, and you need to kill a lot of them, and they're level 40 when the zone cap is 35. So you need to have about 2 coordinated groups when it's about 20 minutes ahead of time for Cassie spawn to be going around gathering up Malbros and murdering them. Now, on the plus side, you get a full kettle of light pretty much for doing that if you're part of one of the groups, which means you get like 9 crystals when you need 35-ish per weapon. No, I think it's 31 per weapon, so that's handy. But it also means you got a coordinated Cassie group when she's up, and let me tell you, that is the worst experience on the planet. You will have people that show up in Pagos and are just watching weather timers specifically for when Blizzards is coming, and it hasn't been blizzarding for a while, just so they can take a shot at Cassie to try and get one of the 20 million gil items. And these people, if the prep isn't going well, will, instead of helping contribute, do one of 2 things. They will go sit at the platform that leads to Cassie's arena, which is right a little circular arena with a bridge to it that's kind of like a floating piece of ice in the middle of a frozen lake, and the ice surrounding the little circular bit of water around it is where all the Malbros spawn. And they will just sit there and wait for Cassie to pop, and the microsecond they see her pop, they will just go to town and immediately insta-pull her. And it is assumed that Cassie will be insta-pulled every single time she spawned. So as it starts approaching, okay, we've killed a lot of them, she should be ready to pop-ish about now. You will start seeing more and more people stop prepping and go wait on the bridge. This causes quite a few issues. And then the other thing is there are all kinds of other mobs just a little bit outside the little circle around Cassie's arena that are close enough not to leash. So the usual strat is everybody waits at the base of the little ice bridge, and they will. Oh, there's the Cairn. About face. Well, wait at the base of the ice bridge. You send 2 tanks to either side of the bridge and pull them to and pull all the Mulbros to there, and you murder them. And you just group them up in AoE with the tanks rotating cooldowns. This becomes difficult when everybody is aspected to kill level 40 ice aspected Mulbros, and somebody brings a train of about 30 wind aspected Griffins.
Oh joy.
That all have random target to a random target in their vicinity they're in combat with, pounces that stun you.
Oh joy.
So, Cassie prep is a nightmare, and sometimes people will just do the stupid Griffin thing just because.
Yeah.
They just feel like trolling. So Cassie prep is a nightmare. Crab is literally right next to an Aetheryte, where both his dudes to pop him and him are, so he's way easier. That's why his thing is 10 million gil less. And his weather comes up, which is fog, way more often. But he still distorts everything, because as soon as Crab is within like 10 minutes, everybody drops what they're doing and takes the Aetheryte to go sit in front of Geothermal and wait for Crab.
You mean they wait for somebody else to go and fight the thing which is preventing Crab from spawning?
Yes, this happens a lot too. So if you're prepping stuff, and let's say you do take your group to go deviate and go to Crab. Okay, this is normal, and would be one thing if it was just that. However, because it's Pagos, there's always a catch. And in Pagos, every single NM, except for the Snow Queen, the level 21 you can spawn by killing the level 25 Yukinkos, can block all the NMs in the zone. So you cannot have another NM up if you want to pop a specific one. You have to have it be killed. So if you're out there fighting Crab, and the entire instance is up there, and some low level that doesn't know what they're doing goes and pops Ash Dragon, Crab ain't gonna spawn until Ash Dragon's dead. And Ash Dragon is way the F on the other end of the map.
Thought you were calling him Ass Dragon.
Oh, I've seen him called that before, but yes, I suppose he could be the Ass Dragon. So yeah, that's what happened. Hey, Paul, go stand there for that chest. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Floor's flighted, so I should be able to pop like everything. So Pagos in general just has a ton of problems. Not to mention, a bunch of the NMs require a cliff face drop at points that are very hard to see, especially if you don't know where they are. Onto little ledges jutting out of the cliff face. There's a big elevated area that's high enough to kill you many, many, many times over. And about halfway down, there'll be little ledges that lead into random caves. And some of these random caves go to areas where you can prep mobs and spawn NMs. And if those are the ones you need to prep, you gotta wait for your whole group to figure it out and get down there, because the fall will bring you to 1 HP, and usually at the bottom of these falls is a sleeping dragon that if you don't RP walk past, will one-shot you.
Alright. Damage doesn't generate enough sound to wake it up?
No, falling does not generate sound, only movement.
Thank goodness for that.
So, but one of them is literally right underneath it, and you need to RP walk off the edge to not trigger him. For some reason, that one's special. The one that leads to Lohi. He's so close to the drop point that you will be at 1 HP, and if you're not RP walking when you fall down, he will wake up.
Who thought that was a good idea?
Somebody that had their pants on their head. Like, puts their pants on one arm at a time, dumb. All of Pagos is a nightmare. So, I have been, this is why I've been trying to cajole you guys to get to within whatever range you need to get for me to get EXP with you.
But you see, the thing is that come and do this really miserable task so that you can spend more time being miserable with me in this miserable place. It's not the most compelling sales pitch I've ever heard.
It really
I
isn't.
I just want us to suffer together. So-
It's like there is so many things I would rather be doing than Eureka.
Yeah, it's mostly Pagos. Like the rest of it has got jank. It's grindy. It's not very good. Yes, it's way overhyped by the community around it. Yeah, all that's true.
Yes.
But I can't actually target this thing with my controller because it's stuck in the wall.
Oh.
But if it wasn't for Pagos and just how bad Pagos is and how it's the second fattest of the grinds, I could probably tolerate it because Animos is pretty chill. You can usually meet some nice acquaintances there that you'll see over the course of a few days and get to know a few people. You can have some normal conversations with people. The people there are sane because they don't really know what they're doing yet, and there's nothing of high value to attract the weirdos.
Generally, if you want to just no-brain Animos, you can just follow the train around.
Yeah, and I don't mind running an Animos. I will happily take the wheel of an Animos and call pull times and run the tracker and all that jazz.
Yeah.
I did it this week and ran literally an entire Animos, and we efficiently cleared out every single spawn within 2 hours.
Wow, that's a quick one.
Yeah, and everybody was happy. I would call pull times and say, "Stay and shout chat if you need more time." Everybody adjusted to the pull times when I had to change them to give people more time. It was great. It went just fine. I called a few pull times that were probably a little too long, but it is what it is. And we got things done in a fairly good manner. Pagos, no. And the big block on me getting through the Eureka grind is Pagos. So I've been working on trying to muster the juice to do that. But I need to get some more weapons from Animos because these items only stack up to 999. You need like 800 of them for Animos and Pagos. Thankfully, they cut that crap out once you get to Hydatos and Pyros. You still need a lot of Pyros crystals, but that's the only of the wackadoodle things. That and the boss drop item. You don't need the tiny crystals anymore.
Oh, good.
But, oh yeah, and the light grind aspect of Pagos. You have to fill up a kettle that can hold up to 10 light, and you have a random chance from random enemies to get some light. I need to... My strong's good. I need to steal. I need to sustaining potion. And we need to pull him, and I'll... yeah, go ahead and list him, Ball. But, yeah, and NMs give you a fixed amount of light per NM, but random enemies, while you're prepping crap, can give you light too. Fern, please don't run up to them. Let them come to the middle.
Yeah. That's because I'm half asleep.
Ooh, I can get away with saving whatchamacallit. Come on. There's no way I get away with a single resolution. Oh my goodness, I might do it. Aha, victory. One resolution. Good old sucky bitch.
There we go.
All right. So yeah, that's been my experience this week. I'm stretching what I did in Eureka into a mini segment because I really don't have anything else. I've been very busy at work, and aside from that one day in Animos, I've mostly just been coming home too tired to really commit to anything.
Yeah, it's a shame actually because I really do like a lot of the the artifact gear you can get out of Eureka, and there's some really cool glams in there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool,
But you got to get through Pagos.
But you got to get through Pagos, and it's like I just can't.
Artifacts.
Well, I didn't get.
Purchase.
Surely they could have guaranteed one for a multiple of 100. Come on,
You'd think
I got
so.
one.
stingy.
I also got one.
No, I don't care about pot shards. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm done with pot shots. But yeah, you'd think the artifacts would drop 100.
But no.
No, we got a bunch of sacks to open.
Yay! Time for fireworks.
Yeah, they're junk sacks, but ooh, Moonfire Sandals. That's at least 40k. Ooh, Moonfire Halter. That's probably about 90k. Okay, that's good. I'll take that money.
Give me materia.
Hey, that's money. It's not very much money, but it's money.
Yeah, the replica elegant stuff
One
really isn't worth a whole
Ida.
lot. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. What news do we have?
So we foreshadowed this one, so we should do this one first.
Go for it.
Because, holy crap, this is dumb. If there was an email, we're blitzing through the show this week, so we'll save it for next week. Like a Dragon Gaiden, the reason I'm trying to get through the Yakuza series again so I can play the new Kiryu game and play all the ones that I haven't made my way through, has come out.
Yes.
And it did not launch with an English dub, but for some godforsaken reason, they gave it one in a patch later. Now, Yakuza, for two reasons, is not a series that I would ever watch dub, or listen to dub, or play dub, whatever. And the reason for that is, number one, I've experienced the Japanese voices for literally the entire series so far from what I played, and whenever I start with one language, I will always stick with that language if at all possible, because having the voices change on me just messes with my brain too much.
Yeah.
Number two, the Yakuza are a very Japanese thing, and modern Japanese just fits them too good. Like, even with historical Japanese settings, I can sometimes get away with a dub on them, because even though it's very Japanese, it's old enough Japanese that the language they're speaking ain't anything like it was in that time. So my brain's okay with it, a little more okay with it. But with Yakuza, that's a very modern thing. They're speaking modern Japanese. It's got very Japanese mannerisms, modern Japanese mannerisms and culture stuff going on. It should really be watched and played in Japanese.
Yeah.
So, you may remember Yakuza 1, when it first released in the West, had an English dub that had Mark Hamill as Majima and somebody that I forget as Kiryu, and it was terrible because it was an early PS2 dub.
It was memeably bad.
Yeah, it is just hilarious how bad that dub is.
Yes.
Well, when they decided to do this one, I was looking through the cast because I was curious, and I noticed something. That name looks familiar on the voice for Kiryu. And then I'm like, oh, that guy. And then my next thought was, that's his real name? So Young Yeah got the voice role for Kiryu, the YouTube streaming personality that does really tepid garbage takes on...
Absolutely scraping the bottom of the barrel content mill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the most milquetoast opinions on just about everything.
He literally... Yeah, he just regurgitates what's happened and what other people have said. He has no opinions of his own from what I can see. And he just goes with whatever he thinks is the most popular opinion. He is totally useless as a content creator, IMO.
I mean, I knew about this. I knew about this beforehand because once it got announced that he was going to do it, he talked about little else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not follow the social medias, so the daily chatterings of the internet personalities don't reach my ears all the time, and this one went under my radar. So
Well, the thing is that everybody was predicting that it would be an atrocity.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the dub comes out, and sure enough, it's awful. And Yongye is one of the biggest reasons it's awful.
That dude is
So-
not a voice actor.
And
Well, no, the thing is that he spends all his time saying that, oh, well, he's a career actor who's been acting for a long time, longer than he's been a streamer. It's like, no, that means you've been calling yourself an actor. What you actually do to make your daily bread is stream tepid content.
yeah, if you cannot make your living off of what you do, that's not what you do.
Yeah, that means you're bad at it.
Yeah, we are not podcasters for a living. We each have our own jobs that we use to, put bread on the table. And that's what we'll tell you we do.
I can scarcely imagine a more obvious miscast. And he went off because he's been flinging the ban hammer left and right sort of thing. Like he's been blocking anybody who criticizes his performance at all in the slightest, claiming that they're just being an asshole. But it's like it's just so obviously bad that any layperson could tell you that it was an atrocious performance.
Yeah,
and he cannot stomach it. He keeps talking about, oh, he earned the right to do the role. He earned it. He worked hard to.
I got the tweet right here where he goes off like that. There will always be a loud minority who will claim I get cast because I'm a YouTuber. FYI, I've been acting longer than I've been YouTubing. I earned Kiryu. Spent days perfecting my auditions. If they only cared about follower numbers, they just cast Mr. Beast for everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Mr. Beast wanted to apply, then I'm here to tell you
a better job.
No, Young would be out on his ear. Like, there's no way.
They'd bring Mr. Beast on for name recognition alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's not good. Like, I don't think that they really cared that much about this dub. I'm pretty sure that they're confident that nobody was ever going to listen to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty
sure it happened to be so bad that it's now memeable.
Yeah, I think this was a case of Sega has been trying to cram English dubs into everything, even stuff that doesn't normally have it. So they were just like, okay, we got to do one.
Sega's never been one to shy away from a terrible idea.
I'm going to subject you all to an example.
Oh, no.
Please try not to summon your persona after you watch that video. That is Yongya singing Judgment for Karaoke as Kiryu.
I've seen these. They've been going around the internet constantly.
Yeah, it is painful. Painful. So yeah. This
that auto-tune, man.
Yeah, they tried so hard to pitch correct him. Holy crap. But yeah, it's awful. And I'm less hurt by this because nobody is going to listen to the dub, and it's just kind of like if there was a bad Spanish dub for something, I don't really care because I'm not going to listen to the thing in that language. But at the same time, I feel kind of bad for Kiryu. The boy's got a legacy. The boy is a big figure in the history of video games. Not super big, but big enough. And he's a cool character. He doesn't deserve to be done dirty like that. But man, you got Young, yeah, that's a real kick in the nuts. Poor Kiryu. But on the plus side, we get a whole lot of funny dub clips we can make fun of, and we get to make fun of an internet personality thinks he's way too big for his britches.
I was under the impression that most actors are at least passable singers.
No, turns out
they really
not very many are. Usually theater actors are, but not TV actors.
Yeah, they'll have understudies to do that for them.
Yeah. So yeah,
I suppose my standard for voice acting has sort of like been dramatically lifted by the amount of Final Fantasy XIV that I've been playing over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Like the dub quality in FF14 is like head and shoulders above virtually every other game on the market with an English dub.
Because they actually went out and got, theatre persons.
They got theatre actors. They didn't hire voice actors. They added theatre actors.
Because there's really only 4 voice actors in the English world at the moment.
4 of them are called Bryce Papenbrook. Yes.
Nolan North, Bryce Papenbrook, Laura Bailey, and Troy Baker.
And then 4 clones of Bryce Papenbrook because he seems to somehow have time to be the main character in everything.
He's somehow everywhere, yes.
Yeah. Poor Crispin Freeman. He's like the only good staple. voice actor in the English voice acting scene. That's one of the common ones.
There's a lot of mediocre ones and ones that are sort of like they're good enough, but I just don't like. I place sort of like JYB in that category. Like he's good enough. He's good enough to do the job.
Yeah.
JYB can, yeah.
I don't think he's particularly exceptional.
There's a
Yeah,
number out
JYB
there
can do good if he has a good ADR director. If he doesn't get good direction, JYB can be all over the place, and he'll just wind up being JYB.
Yeah, he like every like the JYB voice for me is the English dub of Bleach Ichigo.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
It's this like median voice that he will default to anytime he isn't given any kind of specific instructions.
Yeah.
it's Lelouch for me when I think of that.
I think it's Lelouch for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of voice actors out there who've got like one role and that's it. They would be good if they were actually able to develop their career a bit, but yeah, generally they don't get the chance.
Well, a bunch of the ones that are good that only do one-off stuff usually do other stuff. Like Dan Southworth and Ruben Langdon, who play Dante and Virgil, are pretty good voice actors. But their main gigs are elsewhere. I forget what Dan Southworth does, but Ruben's thing is he runs his own stunt company that does mocap for video games. That's his main gig.
Yeah.
So they usually have something else. And the industry is so closed off and isolated by the unions that remember back when I was talking about Shield Heroes dub during the first season and how it had a bunch of people that were actually pretty good that I hadn't heard before?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they couldn't get the union to take that one. Apparently, some union workers are doing it anyway because it came up during one of them wacky times when the industry was trying to put its pants on its head again. But
I don't understand how it works such that they go to the unions at all. Like, why do they have to go to the unions?
California and Texas law, probably, or
Yeah.
rather, probably regional law in Texas, not state law,
They
but
will
definitely California law.
they will bust in and break your kneecaps, metaphorically.
Yeah, the big city areas in the U.S. have started giving the unions a ton of power as of the last 20 years. So they just they can take legal action with people if they agree to hire with the union, and they can strong arm companies into.
Yeah, but what I'm
using
saying is
unions.
why how does that get started? How do they get people hooked into that system? Because any given company doesn't have anything to do with the union from the outset. It's some agreement has to be made to work with the unions before there is a standing agreement to work with the unions. But how does that agreement get made? Why would it get made? Working with the unions is a strict demerit to anybody who has to do it.
From what I understand, it is just it's too cost effective not to, because they'll just undercut any of the independents or independent agencies.
Yeah, but you get a shit product.
Yeah, but people don't care about quality products anymore.
I guess they did cast Young Year.
Yeah, so they'll take the cheaper option if they can, and I think they have some twisted union preference laws where if there is a union and you're registered as part of certain industries, you have to hire from it. Like California, I think, has something stupid like that. I have to look up to the specifics of the law because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but that sounds in the ballpark of correct.
Things like that do
Yeah,
exist
wow.
in other industries, so
I expect it's only going to get worse now that AI is a thing.
Yeah, and to bring it back to Shield Hero, after the first season, both of the voice actors that I said were doing really good, one of them got throat cancer and died before season 2 could get dubbed, and he played Naofumi. And the other one got there's some kind of weird issue with them, and they don't do voice acting anymore.
right. That's a shame.
So,
I'm sure they can just be replaced by Bryce Papenbrook and Bryce Papenbrook.
Oh yeah, they grabbed some. It's still a new guy because nobody at the union that's established wants to touch Shieldy Boy.
Too
But,
itchy for them.
Yeah, but he's still some generic union guy. But yeah, it's a mess in the English voice acting industry, and until you destroy those unions and allow more diverse voices by allowing independents to actually have a shot, or smaller agencies to have a shot, you're just not going to see an increase in dub quality if it comes from America.
I think you're more likely just to see dubs not happening.
Yeah. I think we might be heading on that path once Crunchyroll finally folds.
Like, I'm pretty sure that an English dub does exist for Fate Samurai Remnant, but I've never switched it on, and I haven't heard of anybody doing it either.
Yeah. I will usually sample the dub to see if it's offensively bad, but for media, but yeah, for stuff like Fate Samurai Remnant, that is the type of product I would expect them to completely phone it in on. So yeah, that's the state of the VA industry, and poor Kiryu. I'm sorry, buddy. You got done dirty.
All right, what's next? I'll talk about a bit of good news.
If you sure.
Well, it's Trails. Trails is always good
Okay.
news.
The other thing I linked.
Yeah.
Right. So, NIS America is continuing to pump out the Trails games as they come. We are still quite a bit behind. We are 2 games behind now instead of 4, so we're catching up at a pluck of about 1 release per year at the cost of those games having shoes. See the posts I made at the time with the wingdings on some item descriptions. But, and just text on names of stuff disappearing in the ability menu. But they are catching up. So they released at a pluck of about every 1.5 to 2 years in Japan, they'll get a new Trails game. They'll usually have a longer break of about 2.5 years when they do an engine switch. But they've been going at about that pluck for a while. The localization, because of the shoes with Exceed's company size and the details of what went on with the people they contracted for a second chapter, we just got super far behind. I've told that whole story before, so I won't reiterate it. But basically, NIS is playing catch up, and we have confirmed. Well, not of course it may get delayed. It probably will get delayed, but we have a summer window for what was previously known as Kuro no Kuseki, and has got the English title of Trails into Daybreak, which I'm not sure how we get there from Kuro no Kuseki, but okay.
Okay.
And that's coming out in summer of 2024. So, happy to see the Trails series playing catch-up. I may be able to actually go through the games without having to watch refresher videos on YouTube because of the long release windows between them. That would be nice. But, yeah, they got a hard story pivot they need to do after the end of Cold Steel 4 and their efforts to fix it in Reverie. So we'll see what they do then. But that was just me posting that because I'm happy the Trails is finally catching up, so we won't be as far behind, and I won't have to dodge spoilers as hard.
All right. I think we might put a lot of this stuff aside for the Rantathon, but we are starting to get the awards shows coming through as well.
Yeah, it's Bear Sex Simulator wins Game of the Year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more or less a given. I mean, it's not like it doesn't have its purpose. I'm sort of content for it to win simply because it's a thumb in the eye of the AAAs.
It is
Yeah.
an extremely good game.
They
Yeah,
probably had 1/10 the budget and they made 10 times the sales of their next competitor, so...
They had to make 2 full games before they were able to even land the license, because, yeah...
they paid for the license.
They had to buy the license. This game wasn't made with the help of Wizards of the Coast. This game was made in spite of Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
So...
I mean,
yeah.
sure, it's pretty... It suffers from a lot of the diseases of Western RPGs, but at least it shows that there are still people who know how to assemble a decent game from parts without just throwing colossal quantities of money at it.
Yeah, it's not
because that's like the current industry solution.
It's not aggressively preachy like some games tend to be. There are elements in there, but it's like tastefully done in a lot of cases, and it's just you can ignore it.
Yeah, the problem is I'm just so sick of it now and I'm old enough to establish my own worldview and it set in,
Yeah.
that any preaching to me just makes me groan at best.
I will give them a big credit is they do have like the strong female protagonist archetype character in there, but I feel like they do her right because she is a massive dork.
The thing
It's
with
great.
strong female protagonist is it almost always just evolves into generic girl boss
Or
these days,
psychotic bitch.
or butterface.
Yeah. It's
Usually
rarely done,
always
like-
a butterface.
It's very rarely like she is an actual character or she is an actual person. There's usually some
Well,
sort of
I've
horribly cringy stereotype.
My bigger problem is she's not an actual woman. She's just a man in a woman in a woman costume.
In some cases,
As
that
far
would
as
be
her
an
character
upgrade.
act. As far as their character acting goes, that seems to almost always be the case. Like there's no feminine traits about the female that you're billing as being one of your leads.
one of my friends did complain to me that there was some character that he described her as aggressively lesbian and will constantly point this out.
Doesn't ring a bell. Who that might be?
He described her as a sort of demigod, but incredibly haughty for someone who's supposed to be the avatar of a good god.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who that would be. It might be a character I haven't encountered or haven't done much with, maybe. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing where the running theme the last few years has been the quote unquote strong female protagonist, but the thing about strong and female is that doesn't usually work together. Literally.
Well, the thing is that female strength does not exist along the same axis as masculine strength.
Yeah, it is.
Like
What's a good word for it?
any feminine character that is attempting to project masculine strength ends up being a masculine character who's doing worse than a real masculine character would. So it's sort of like the difference between feminine and womanish and masculine and mannish. Like
Your work is buzzing you.
What? Oh, great! I don't even know whose number this is.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
obvious.
BRB.
So anyway.
So yeah, what he's getting at is that there are feminine traits that can make a woman a strong character that don't sacrifice her femininity. You just don't need to make her punch harder or able to do all the same physical stuff as men. And that makes you still have a girl as your character that you want.
Yeah.
Like you can have her be a good grounding character for the strong fighters in the party, or the love interest, or the main character, or whoever. You can have her be good at babysitting the party. You can have her going around and being personable with people in the towns and gathering information, stuff like that. Stuff that would not undermine her femininity, instead of just making her hit harder.
I'd settle for just like not making them a one-dimensional, irritating girl boss.
Well, the problem is when you make them built to be on par with men in the traditionally male roles, the whole pitch of strong female character becomes
What the shit?
what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't make any GD sense.
Sorry, Limsa Laminsa just happened. I need to
Oh.
not be here. I don't think I should have
Oh,
been
yeah.
showing that on YouTube.
You're probably good unless you've got weirdo mods installed.
No, I've just got weirdo people in Limsa Laminsa.
Oh, the naked cat boys and bunny boys and whatever's.
I'm just... Yeah, okay. Anywho, so yeah, that's that. It's like, not surprising. I don't
Yeah.
think there's really any games this year that really kind of get to that degree of popularity and success.
No, the only thing of note is if Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be the thing sweeping the Game Awards as well. That's 2 years running. Where while I consider Elden Ring more of an action game than an RPG, because the RPG aspects are just
They're kind of just there.
they're tacked on like they are with a lot of action games that call themselves RPGs.
Yeah.
That's still an eye in the face of people that said the RPG was dead.
Yep. and that
Or an
narrative
eye,
games are
in
dead.
the face, a poke in the eye. Let's try that.
I know what
again.
you mean. We'll go with the eye in the face. But yeah, like that was that big thing. Was it the mid last year? That they were pushing that the RPG is dead, the narrative game is dead.
Yeah, well, Elden Ring doesn't have much of a narrative unless you go to Vadi's channel and watch the lore.
Yeah, if you really dig into it, it does.
Nobody's going to read all them item descriptions. That's what Vadi's for.
Yeah. Whereas Baldur's Gate is like it's all about the narrative. It's all about the story and the writing.
Yeah. So that's a thing
Yeah.
that I'm happy to see.
So yeah, that's good. Like, what other? I'm trying to think what other media darlings would actually be up there for this year.
You got. I think that Cyberpunk expansion has made some splashes.
Yeah, but it's only very recent. Oh right, there was Horizon Call of the Mountain that came out.
I guarantee you, Starfield. I think it got 1 or 2 awards at the joysticks, and I guarantee you that the Bethesda has paid off.
It was
Jeff Keighley.
It was Starfield. That game was so utterly just dull, soulless, boring. I've uninstalled it. I've played through it. I've finished the story, and now I've uninstalled it. I'm done. I've had no fun with it.
When I booted the game up and had menu lag and had to go get mods to fix it, we were already downhill.
You were already in Bethesda land?
Yeah, after I got the mods installed, I'm like, you know what? If I have to sit here and mod the basic user interface, this experience is probably not worth it as a whole.
I mean, it is a Bethesda game. But even by Bethesda standards, this game was generic to the point. Complete banality. Starfield is just bad. Well, not bad.
Soulless. It's forgettable.
Soulless.
Nobody will remember this game exists in 6 months. It'll be gone from people's memory.
If it was bad, it would be memorable. But it's not even that.
It is the worst a game can be, and that it's just soulless and forgettable.
Yeah. If I'd rather play the Bethesda game, I'd install Skyrim again, or Fallout 3 or 4, or New Vegas, and just install a bunch of mods and go have a good time.
I was zoning out and with one of Fauna's streams in the background, and she was talking about how she hadn't played any more of Starfield, despite the fact that she's normally a Todd shill because she loves Skyrim so much. But she's like, there's just nothing in there that grabbed me at all.
There isn't.
I would rather just play Skyrim again. Maybe this is all part of a psyop to get people to buy another copy of Skyrim.
Yeah, like I can't even say that there's any interesting characters. Like the characters are there and they serve their purpose and they're fine.
And they clip into the ceiling and the floor, and they talk to you while dead. All the things you expect in a Bethesda game.
All the things in a Bethesda game. But what they aren't is memorable. I think
we unlocked the 3rd map with the subs. Hooray.
Oh, nice. I think the most memorable character is one you can opt in at character creation, and that is the Adoring Fan. And that's not even from Starfield.
Yeah, well, there's the parents are apparently pretty memorable if you pick that trait.
Yeah, the fact that you go you go into a nightclub on the Sleaze planet, and you can actually find your parents just in there, and they just say, we'll just pretend we never saw each other. That was one of the few actual memorable moments. It's like, things have gone off script.
Oh, how's it doing, son or daughter? So, which of these hoe bags is your preferred girl?
It doesn't even that. They just kind of stare at you because we were never here. So, that's just it. It's just, that's it. There's nothing really to comment on. Like, the story it all kind of starts navel gazing. The decision you make at the end is like, choose your hat. As far as I can tell, it's either fight one guy, fight another guy, or fight both of them and declare that you know better. And ultimately, nothing changes no matter what you choose. Like, as much as I've peed on Fallout 4 for its faults in the past, at least it's still memorable. It has personality and soul, and I was able to get invested enough to get annoyed at the terrible writing. But Starfield, no. I can't even get. I'm not even invested enough to even be annoyed by the dumb.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, Todd has paid off at least one award at the Game Awards.
Well, looking at the golden joysticks, yes, golden joysticks. The only one they got was best Xbox Game of the Year, but that is
Todd paid for an award.
That is, I think, Todd paid for an award.
Nobody seriously thinks that that's a good game.
Was Hi-Fi Rush this year or was it last year?
I think it was this year.
Hi-Fi Rush, was that this year or last year?
I think it was this year, but yeah, that was made with a surprise release by a relatively.
They didn't have bribe money in their budget.
No, they didn't have much in the budget at all for that game.
Yeah, they didn't have an advertising budget, so they did the surprise drop shtick instead.
And that game is infinitely more memorable and interesting than Starfield could ever hope to be. Yeah. Like, people will remember fantastic games. People will remember terrible games. They won't remember bland.
You know, what surprised me the most about Starfield, though, was just how it doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
Like, it's at risk of citing the current year, it's 2023 and your game looks like that.
I hate that argument.
After all of the money that they threw at it, and how long it's in development, and it still looks like that? Really?
A lot of that is actually, I went through and I turned off a bunch of things, like the film grains and a bunch of filters and stuff like that, and it looks better. But, okay, the characters still look like they're dead inside, but that's Bethesda standard, I mean, come on.
Well, if you were living in a Bethesda game, wouldn't you be dead inside?
Very much so, yes. Unless I got to be the protagonist in, like, modern Skyrim, in which case I would ride around on my giant crab and throw fire at things. And be the only person having a good time.
Yeah.
Crab metal.
Like, the fact that Starfield, if you spec your character for heavy weapons, the infinite ammo mining laser you get at the start of the game will last you the entire game.
Well, the thing is, the game just has a lot of like stupid, obvious exploits.
Yeah.
Like, you can, from what I've heard, you can basically go like right to the end of the game, and like go to like one of the most dangerous areas, and then just get stuff from there, and either sell it or use it.
Yeah.
And then you'll just be overpowered for the entire game.
From the start of the game, your ship's got a decent jump range, and you can refuel it. Well, I haven't actually needed to refuel it, so you can just jump to a high-level star system, land on a planet, sneak your way into a place, and just start stealing stuff.
And apparently, like, there's like super powerful stuff in like in a display case or something very early on in the game. And you can just take it because the geometry is so bad.
Yeah, towards the end of the game, you go to a city that is basically been set on by, I forget what they were, bad guy aliens. When you jump into the system, because it's right near the start location, the security try and wave you off, but what I can tell, you can still just go down and land. They'll shoot at you when you try to take off or try to land, but that you can just run them, it's fine. So from there, yes, you can just go in and walk around down there and pick up a lot of very high quality gear, and there's a good chance that a lot of that will spawn at legendary rarity as well.
My favorite exploit was there's apparently an ability you get that makes enemies drop their weapons.
Yep.
So what you do is you get that, and you go to the last area in the game, use that to
probably,
make all the enemies drop their weapons and just pick them up.
Yep.
Dragon shout.
Yeah.
Dragon shout. And they drop the weapon, so you just loot all their weapons, and then you can be OP.
Yeah, and then you just hightail it out of there.
I'd say you just loot all the weapons and sell them, but merchants have such a pitifully small amount of money on them. It's not worth the hassle.
Well, I've also heard though that base construction is basically like you can't, even if you decide you really want to do it, you still can't be self-sufficient. You just have to fly all over the galaxy buying parts.
And there's no way to track it in game either.
It's only in your interest to buy everything that you ever see.
You can become
Because
self-sufficient.
You don't know
eventually.
whether or not you're going to need it.
Yeah. Yeah, with a lot of work, you can become self-sufficient, but it means setting up massive trade lanes all over and right pain in the ass, and there's absolutely no reward for doing it. You can build your
Yeah,
own ships, but, I mean, by the time you're at that point, all the merchants or all the ship vendors are selling all the parts anyways, so why?
Yeah, it's just a game that was maybe it had an idea when it was first pitched, but it clearly got lost somewhere along the way.
Yeah, they played everything far, far, far too safe. They picked
So yeah,
the absolute safest, risk-free, boring option wherever they possibly could.
yeah. So I expect Todd will pay off an award at the Game Awards, and he already paid off one for this, because honestly, in this day and age with so few console exclusives, do we really need a best PlayStation, best Xbox game of the year? And Starfield isn't even Xbox exclusive, I don't think.
No, it's on Windows as well.
Oh, I thought it was on PS4 or PlayStation as well.
Probably is.
Nobody owns a PlayStation. What are you talking about?
Let me see.
The Opossum does. He went and bought one for some reason.
Yeah, Game Awards. Oh, they've gone orange this year. I might have to change our backgrounds. Game Awards. They announced their nominees on Monday. 25 days away. So yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if Starfield is just snuck into there as nominees, just to remind people that it exists, because no one's talking about it.
I guarantee you Todd paid off for a full award somewhere in there.
Yeah, it'll probably be Game for Change or something like that.
Best exploration game for some weird, one of the weird categories.
Best universe populated by soulless mannequins. No, wait, that'd be Five Nights at Freddy's. There you go.
Games for Change.
Best innovation, something dumb like that.
Well, it's not even.
Sounds about right.
It's like accessibility or something like that, where they've actually done something interesting to get more people playing it.
Accessibility is literally the opposite of what I would call Starfield, when you have to mod the UI to make it functional.
Exactly.
I don't know why they didn't just copy Sky UI, because everybody uses Sky UI.
Sky UI is fantastic.
Surely if you're just you're lazy and you don't want to do any work, rather than doing a really shitty UI, you should just copy a UI that everybody already likes. Then you can do no work and get accolades for it.
Instead, they managed to create a UI that nobody likes.
I'm sure all these kids cheated in high school before they got jobs at Bethesda. Just do what you did there. Just copy the guy next to you's homework.
Go over to ModDB or something and just start copying. So yeah.
It's not like they can sue you for it. You own it. In the US, that they don't have legal grounds. The people that make mods are totally screwed.
Yeah, that's not necessarily because of legal. I think that's more because of terms of services. But yeah, it gets messy when you start getting legally involved with mods.
So yeah, it's that's one notable one we'll want to keep an eye on. Baldur's Gate being another one to see what clownery they come up with that one with, and any other ones to really look at. I'm curious how much the trash fire that Alan Wake 2 and almost certainly is gets a few awards, because that company gets a nod every single time.
I've heard people say only nasty things about it. It's like that. Yeah. That's basically that it's a horrible experience, and it's just about featuring their diverse female lead. That's the only purpose in the game. Yeah,
the Control was the last game they made, and it had one section that was amazing, and the rest of the game was mediocre to hot garbage.
So the only piece of footage that ever got showed was from that section?
Yeah, if you ever see a piece of footage from Control, I guarantee you it's the ashtray maze. That's the only part of the game that's good.
Every time I've seen Control marketed, it's like really trippy Escher's gone on the acid dearly.
Yeah, the ashtray has trapped you inside of a labyrinth where the walls shift all the time, but it's helping you
Yeah.
and helping you fight the enemies. And that's a really, really cool section with a banger soundtrack from an in-universe band from Alan Wake, actually. But everything else about that game was hot garbage.
It's
It was
a
just
game
the
that's...
LCP.
Is that those two old guys that you were talking about one time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that think they're Thor and Odin.
Yeah, that's right. Thing is, though, Control was basically, they opened up the SCP wiki and started copying bits from there, and they still managed to mess
Oh
that
yeah,
up.
you literally go inside the brain of the most popular SCP, except now it's a refrigerator. The one where you can't look away from it, or it comes and eats you, or tears you to pieces.
Yeah.
They literally turned that into a refrigerator, and you go inside its brain and fight a boss monster.
Hey?
It's just blatant copying.
Yeah, it's like... And yet
And
still
good
somehow you
luck
messed
if you
that up.
don't have a super modern PC. And God help you if you played on PS4 like I did, with a not pro PS4 at the time. Because, oh boy, they love their particle effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 90% of videos about that game that are to be found online are about the technical aspects of trying to get it to work. Like, it was basically Crisis for a new generation.
Yeah, they had no reason to do it, because the particle effects are so overdone and there's so many, they look terrible. Oh, it's just a mess.
So yeah, we shall see what our nominees for the Game Awards are next week.
Why can't
Yeah.
they nominate something cool? Like, why is it always...
Typically, there'll be one
Right.
indie or one game like along those lines that will get lip service in these events. But that's rarely do they actually win anything of action.
The other problem is there just aren't that many great games coming out.
What is even coming up? Like, what are people waiting for? Like, there's like FF7 Rebirth,
Yeah,
and what else? What is the big upcoming title?
we've just had a bunch of good big games come out. Like,
Yeah, like Lies of P came out, Armored Core
Peace.
came out.
yep. Along those axes, you got the Ark remake for the people who are waiting for that, and Cities Skylines
Neither of which,
2.
by the way, made a showing at the Golden Joysticks.
Nope, they did not. Actually, I'm surprised Lies of P isn't in there.
They're both really solid games
Yeah.
that
Oh.
lots of people liked, and they generated discussion on online. There's lots of footage of them.
People are having fun with
Like,
them.
realistically, I mean, if you're talking about games that really took off with people who actually play video games, like, the ones on the list are not those.
Yeah, like there's a new Call of Duty that just came out, and nobody cares. Let's see. Popular upcoming games: Persona 5 Tactica, Warhammer Realms of Ruin, Age of Sigmar.
That's
Everybody hates Age of Sigmar.
The new
and it's Warhammer, so your chance of that being a good game, you got about 15%.
Yeah, it's Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which has a much better track record.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
The thing is that Age of Sigmar is hated by everybody, since it's like the World of Warcraftification of the Warhammer Fantasy Battle world. Like, Age of Sigmar is just like that was an attempt to revitalize Warhammer Fantasy Battle, because Warhammer Fantasy Battle predates Warhammer 40k by a significant amount, but it was never quite as popular. It didn't take off like a rocket and capture the public imagination the way that 40k did. So it constantly suffered from being caught in the shadow of Warhammer 40k, because they're very similar games. There's some subtle differences between them, like arranging your units into like ranked formations and that sort of thing is much more important in Warhammer Fantasy Battle than in 40k, which is more skirmish based. So they tried to reimagine fantasy as a more skirmish based game, and part of that involved a massive lore reboot that basically upset everybody who cares about the lore. And ultimately it didn't have they also basically introduced Space Marines into Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which didn't have the intended effect. Most people were just like, yeah, well, I mean, if there's Space Marines here now, I might as well go back to 40k. And honestly, it was ineffective, and it resulted in them effectively having to bring back Legacy Warhammer as like a classic version, because it still had dedicated fans.
Yeah.
So it was one of those cases where, well, this is now, rather than being your tentpole, this has become your niche game where 40k is your tentpole, and rather than accepting the fact that 40k is the tentpole and Fantasy Battle is the niche, they wanted two tentpoles, and in attempting to generate that, they got rid of their niche and gained nothing. So
I'm just flicking through what's actually coming out. A lot of stuff is only just come out, like Mario Wonder. They've got Mario RPG coming out, which people are getting excited for at least.
Is it a reboot?
It's a remaster.
So nobody will actually care. The people who were always going to buy it will buy it, and it will generate no discussion unless it's atrocious.
Apparently, Arizona Sunshine's getting a sequel that's coming out in a month.
Nobody cared about it the first time.
Nobody cared about it the first time.
Arizona Sunshine is primarily a VR game anyway.
Yeah, it's not a bad game by all accounts, but
I mean, I liked it, but it's still a VR game. That doesn't
VR game equals toy. It's not a game. It's a toy.
Yeah, it is not Half-Life Alyx level here. That's about the only VR game I'd consider a video game.
Yeah.
And even that, nobody talks about it anymore. Like, it didn't leave a mark.
Yeah. Beyond
It was a
that...
tech demo.
Well,
it was a very long tech demo.
It's one of those things where if VR had market penetration and more people could relate to the cool stuff that it did, yeah, there'd be a lot of buzz and it'd be a touchdown. But the fact of the matter is, VR is too expensive for most people.
I mean, I don't know what you guys talked about while I was on the phone, but that was actually the thing that caught my attention in the whatchamacallit, the list of awards was best hardware. It's like best hardware, PlayStation VR 2. Does anybody own one of those? Anybody?
Nope.
Nobody owns a PS5 except the Opossum. And does the Opossum have a VR 2?
No.
For all we know, it could be the absolute pinnacle of VR technology, but we'll never find out
But
because
nobody
it's
has one.
expensive.
Like, I saw a YouTube video about it once that spoke of it relatively favourably. It had its drawbacks and its benefits. Mainly was good for ergonomics, has some good technology, etc., etc. But it was like, well, I mean, most people who want a VR device have a VR device, and very few people can afford to buy every VR device or update it every time a new one comes out. So,
yeah. I got my Oculus, and that's where we ended there.
Especially this.
Yeah,
one.
my PSVR's basically been mothballed. Like, I don't use it anymore.
Oculus now requires me to sign up with Facebook.
Oh, hey, there's something I could actually get excited about. Apparently, there's a re-release of Golden Sun coming up on this. Going to be on the virtual console.
Okay, but Golden Sun's.
That's like a 20-year. Oh, I've just aged myself.
I love Golden Sun, but still, that's just a re-release.
I saw a news snippet going around just before the show, actually, on the topic of the PS5, that apparently the new PS5 Slim has it syncs to the disk drive that is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you reset your console, it will unsync, and you'll have to repair it. But you can't repair it without an internet connection, which means when the servers go down, all of those disk drives will no longer be connected to the PS5 after one console reset cycle. So that means that those disk drives will become dead. Basically, the ability to play on-disc games will eventually become the province of homebrewers.
Yeah.
When you have all of the legitimate hardware involved.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Remember when Sony won the PS4 generation by having the CEO come up and physically hand a copy of a game to another dude?
Yeah. Now you can't even use the drive. All right.
The thing that was clearly probably recorded in the back room of the studio at the time.
It was. They did that like right there and then.
Like when they saw it.
Quick, somebody get me a game case.
Yeah, basically. So, all right. The only game of note that I'm actually seeing for December release is Kebab Simulator. There you go. There's our peak. Let's get out of here, shall we?
Has way different connotations with modern current events.
I don't think we're allowed to be racist to Turks either.
No, you're
Aw.
not. It's all about making a kebab shop. There you go. There's your simulator.
I do like a kebab. I do not like the aftermath of the kebab.
Oh yeah, kebab. I like kebabs. Kebabs do not like me.
Yeah, I generally will prefer to go for souvlaki if I can choose one or the other because I seem to be able to tolerate it intestinally a bit more stably.
It has at least the pretense of pretending to be slightly healthier.
Yeah.
It's
Sounds like me and KFC. I love you, KFC, but you don't love me.
No, it does not. All right, we got to wrap up.
All right, folks. We did not do emails this week because we were kind of in a rush. So your email talk of the week. Go ahead and get your predictions in for what you think is going to be showing up at the Game Awards, or what you think of the Golden Joystick winners, because we decided not to do a full deep dive on the Golden Joysticks. So tell us what you think and your thoughts on them.
Dive into. It's a very shallow pool.
Yeah, well, we swim the heck out of that kiddie pool of the Game Awards.
Speech.
So, all right, folks. We will probably not have any concrete Rantathon plans nailed down for next show, but the next show we should have something.
Yeah, we'll figure all that out in the next week or so.
Yeah, if we don't get started sometime this week, we will start getting the plan put together after next show.
We will put together the plan the next time Fern isn't working.
Yeah, well, we intended to sort it all out this afternoon, but after this show, but everything's gone to hell.
Yeah, I will make the Google document right after we end the show so that we can start making our notes.
Yes.
All right, folks. Y'all got anything for us on this out?
Nope, let's get out of here. I gotta go work.
All right. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.